Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Fiction presented to you by Colorful Selection. Uh, First, I just want to start off by saying thank you for, checking out our previous video, our first one. That's kind of cool. So, we're hoping this works. We're hoping it sticks. And thanks for listening. I came from a rough town. Some shady people here and there, but we were in the woods after all. Well, kinda. My wife and I moved from the city to raise our kids in a place they could have space to be kids, while we could still be about an hour outside of the city for work. We lived on a dirt road right off the main road to the city. Many others lived on small dirt roads around us. The only problem out here was living was hard. Food prices were high, house costs even higher. So I do what I have to keep my family alive. I have a call coming in, dear. Give me just 2 minutes. I kissed my wife on the forehead and walked into the dining room. I picked up the phone and put it to my ear. I thought I told you to never call here again. There was a moment where all I could hear was his breathing on the other line. Finally he spoke, his voice shaking. Hey buddy, thought I'd tell you. Right off Spruce Road, there is a big one that just got hit this morning. I dragged it off to the side for you. Careful with this one, it's heavy. I heard his words ringing in my ear, my own breath humming in the phone before I replied. Okay, thanks. What road exactly was it hit on? Oh, Drover Road. Yep, that's the one. I gripped the phone tightly in my fist. The local bar that he'd always got drunk at was just off that road. Tell me something, I said coolly. Have you been drinking at all this morning? Oh, of course not. Just going for a drive. Yeah, going for a drive. I frowned. He was drunk. No, wasted at 11:30 a.m. Whatever, I'd still check later. Whatever, man, don't call here again. I hung up. I walked out of the dining room and back into the kitchen where I met my wife's uneasy gaze. Who was that? She asked me while fiddling with the thumbs. I took her hands and kissed them before replying. Nobody, just the wrong number. She smiled up at me before going to check on the kids in the playroom just next door. I knew what I had to do, but I wasn't happy about it. The day dragged on as always. However, night soon came and I found myself tucking my youngest into bed, as I did every night. Do it for them, not yourself, I thought, as I watched her roll over in her small bed and fall asleep. I walked into my bedroom and saw my wife already in bed. My eyes darted all over the room looking for the clock. When my eyes met the glow of the clock, I saw I had some time to sleep. Only some, not enough. I stayed in bed, stiff and still. My thoughts were racing. My heart soon met the pace of them. Too soon. Time ticked away. 1 hour, 2 hours. Enough. I couldn't take it anymore. I got out of bed, careful not to wake my wife. I walked silently across the hall, past the bathroom, past the kids' room, and into the mudroom. I took my hunting rifle and my knife. I opened the front door to my house, my safe, large, warm house. I took a deep breath and closed it behind me before going out to my truck. I threw the rifle to the seat beside me and turned the key. My truck purred and replied to the key, and I slowly pulled out of the driveway. I looked over to the dash to see my phone. I looked at the screen to read the time as I drove away. It was 10:30. I had to hurry. As I turned onto the main road, I reminded myself what he had said to me that morning. If he was telling the truth, this could feed us for weeks, if not months. I drove for 15 minutes before I saw the sign for Drover Road in front of me in the road. I turned to the road carefully. It didn't take long for me to notice what he was talking about that morning, even at 34 miles per hour. I pulled the key out and slowed to a stop. I hopped out of the truck and walked into the ditch just to the side of me. All I can think in that moment was how huge the roadkill was. I smiled weakly, seeing the size of it. Maybe, just maybe, he hadn't gone entirely mad. I slowly and with great care dragged the roadkill up to my truck. Once I got it to the road, I, in one swift move, pushed it up and moved over my shoulder and into the truck bed. I grinned as I hopped into the back, trying to cover it with an old rug left in my truck. This was worth it. This is all for them. I hopped out of the truck bed and headed towards the driver's side. I looked back at the bed of my truck. I looked back to the ditch that it was in. I sighed and rubbed my head as I thought about what I promised years ago. I won't do it again, I promise. Trust me a bit. This thought, this promise ate at me as I got back into my truck and turned the key. What was I doing? I still pulled away from the road, the kill still in the back of my truck. I took some deep breaths. Everything was going to be okay, right? Yeah, everything was fine. That was the thought I had in my mind. That was until I saw one waving me down before I left the road. I slowed down to take a closer look before I saw just who this person was. It was the game warden. I held my breath as I rolled down my window to greet him. Hey pal, I said. He looked to be about 22. Hey yourself, he greeted me playfully as he walked to my window. I couldn't relax. Not yet. What are you doing out so late? And with that gun in the seat beside you? He nodded to the gun next to me. Right, the rifle. Oh, just doing some hunting, I said, starting to break out in a small sweat. At this hour, really? He looked up to me and nodded, narrowing his eyes slightly. Oh yes, I said. I have night goggles. It's easier to get them when it's late. To my surprise, his gaze softened. I get it. No worries at all. Mind if I take a look? My eyes locked onto him. My gaze was stiff as I stared back at him. Sure. It's in the back. He nodded to me as he walked behind the truck to the bed. My eyes only left him to make sure I still had it. The small handgun in my cup holder. I gripped it as he lifted the rug covering the roadkill. He seemed to look it over before returning to me. My grip on the gun didn't loosen. He smiled at me before saying, Everything looks all set. Have a good night, sir. I couldn't even reply to him. I rolled the window up and sped away, back to the main road, back home. As soon as I got home, I pulled the roadkill out of the back of my truck and into the backyard. I looked to the sky and realized I didn't have very long before my family would be up. I had to prepare the meat. I started a small fire in the fire pit. Time to get started. I started by removing the roadkill's shirt, pants, socks, and then wallet. Then out of the wallet, the ID, credit card, and even the $22 still left in it. As the fire cracked and any evidence of the roadkill's life burned away, I looked to the forest full of homeless people. He must have hit this one as he tried to cross the road. He was drunk after all. I ground out of my fresh roadkill as I got my knife from my pocket. Oh, I've missed this. Well, kind of took a turn. You think he was going to eat some deer meat, but he actually eating a fucking homeless person. You know, pretty cool. This story was written by Coffee Beans on Reddit, and the title is called Roadkill. So, that's pretty cool. I like that one. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this other episode. And as always, stay spooky, baby.